Senna.
Pals.
Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning talks a lot about destiny. And I think that it's my destiny to always sit next to the loudest person in the theater. I kid you not, this dude was so loud. Eating like Po from Kung Fu Panda. His popcorn just is like, if I could just... This is his box of popcorn, this is his soda, and I'm next to this person. The movie's not always loud. I was hoping it would be more loud just because of this guy. He put his feet up high. This is in like the Prime Theater. It's got the glass pane so you can actually put your feet up. He's putting his feet up on the pane and it's kind of blocking my left side of my vision. It's just a little bit distracting. So I'm like, bro, like your feet. That was the only thing I had the audacity to ask him to not do, was put his feet up. I didn't have the audacity to tell him to stop eating so loud. I know I'm the weird one who can't stand it, and I'm sure everybody else in the theater is just fine, but dang, this guy, his mom did not teach him how to close his mouth when he ate. If you asked me just before Dead Reckoning Part 1 how excited I was for Mission Impossible, I would have said that's the film I am most excited about. And then I saw the film and I was like, the bad guy's a screensaver. This is crazy. It ended on a cliffhanger. I thought that there was a lot of cool callbacks to the earlier Mission Impossible films, but there was a lot of like this weird, vibey, matrixy, like in a way that didn't belong, kind of dialogue and attitude. Overall, I was like, yeah, it does not compare to Fallout. I'm imagining, they got the feedback and they're like, okay, cool. We're gonna set out to make the biggest Mission Impossible yet. And that they did. They made the biggest Mission Impossible. How does it stack up against Fallout? That's my big question while I'm watching the film. And I would say that Fallout is still a better movie. However, there are moments that are definitely the biggest Mission Impossible movie ever. I'm just gonna get that out of my way. There's stuff you see in the trailer that definitely makes it a movie theater worthwhile experience. I wish this guy wasn't here. Damn it. Damn. This was a screening that I went to that was for critics and people like myself. I have IMAX tickets already. I saw it in a regular 239 format. It definitely deserves the IMAX format, especially the sequence I'm thinking of that's advertised a bunch in the trailer. I wanted to feel more immersed in that experience, and so I'm very much looking forward to watching this film again, if that gives you any sense as to my feelings about the film. It's just that some of that, like, the only way I could think of to describe it is sort of that weird matrixy vibe, but not in a positive way, if that makes any sense. If you remember your feelings with the first film, depending on where you landed on the spectrum of feelings, you had some really epic set pieces here. The scope of it, the scale, it's definitely Mission Impossible, and there is some tongue-in-cheek stuff in how it's sort of playing with the impossible odds. I feel like at one point it kind of jumped the shark a little bit. That was in the middle of the film, and I feel like everyone collectively in the theater was like, they just did that. That's...
Flick too hard, damn it!
What I'm talking about happens in the middle of the film. There's obviously the other half of the film to go. It's this interesting juggle of suspense. If you push it too hard, you're starting to be reminded that you're watching a movie. But it was definitely fun. There were definitely so many thrilling moments, and it was dealing with the largest potential fallout possible, globally speaking. Christopher Nolan's Tenet.
I'm the protagonist.
They told you it's the fate of the world. It's so big of an idea, the fate of the world, that you don't really have the capacity to process that. This film had the same stakes, the fate of the world, but you were able to process it the way they were visually communicating it to you. You still have the same villain. It's a more advanced screensaver this time around. That was still weird to me, this faceless villain. I didn't love that. I don't know how I would have done it any differently. You're dealing with such huge concepts, very big ideas, stuff that's actually quite real and scary because of how real it is and how much we are on the precipice of everything it's talking about. You go and watch that movie that not a lot of people liked. What's it called? In that film, they detail certain ideas of if there was a takeover, this is how it might look like, and it's pretty freaking scary. You take that and you amplify it to 1,000,000, and then you get and they have a lot of strong visuals in this film. It definitely stands apart from the other Mission Impossible films. It's got its own style to it that I don't remember being in Dead Reckoning. I don't know if I love the style. It's doing things, it's doing screen wipes and stuff like that. And initially I'm I'm kind of into this. And then after a while I'm I don't know if I'm into this. But it was there, and it stands apart in that regard. There is a good chunk of movie where Tom Cruise, Ethan Hunt is on his own. In those sections, maybe I was distracted by the popcorn guy. I was missing the rest of the team in those moments. I was really wanting the voice and the suspense of his other team members in those moments. That aside, you're still getting treated to some stuff that you don't get to see very often in film, and you get to see Tom Cruise do some Donkey Kong Banana Town stuff. It's insane in the membrane what he's doing in this movie. Going back to that thing, that is my main driving force for going back to the theater and watching it. That sequence, let me give you some context here. So for Dead Reckoning, what they kept pushing on us was that motorcycle jump. They played it a bunch, like a whole behind the scenes and commercials just dedicated to this motorcycle jump, of how Tom Cruise pulled that off and how crazy it is, and he's insane, and how many times they did it, etc., etc. And then you get to the theater, you watch it, and it's like, oh, it's over. It felt almost underwhelming because of how much you saw it in the commercials. And it's like, that was the stunt though. That was the Dead Reckoning moment. Kind of like the Fallout moment. There's a whole bunch of cool stuff in Fallout, but the Fallout moment was that Halo jump. You have a moment that is the moment for Final Reckoning. When you see it, it's like, damn. Like, damn. That's really him doing this. This is so Donkey Kong Banana Town. How is this possible? I almost get like this Jackie Chan effect, this Buster Keaton effect, where you have some shots that linger and pan and whatnot, and you realize you're watching something real right now. These shots that are happening in this epic sequence. Yeah, it's like in my brain, I'm having this sort of like Jackie Chan moment, this Buster Keaton moment of like, wow, the way the camera's moving, it's like, no, this is real. God bless him. Tom Cruise, he does some insane stuff, man, and he gives you your money's worth. This definitely ups the ante in terms of like what you got, certainly in Dead Reckoning. And even in Fallout, like I would say that this is even crazier than what you got in Fallout. I was more scared watching this than what I got in Fallout. There's a certain sense of like, when you're watching Fallout, there's a certain sense of control. Yes, it's dangerous. Yes, it's scary. That's super cool. It's really Tom Cruise. But here, it makes your sphincter tighten when you're watching it. I don't know how many ways to describe this, but you're like, wow, you have to see this in the big screen, man. I didn't get it in a big enough screen. I sat a little bit closer, which was regrettable after I realized I was next to, Munchie over here. Yeah, even with that, man, I gotta go back and watch it in IMAX. It wasn't like immersive enough. Anything that's more premium, this is the film to spend that premium money on. I guarantee you won't be disappointed. The music was interesting as well because it almost had like nuances of James Bond. It's got that thrilling Mission Impossible music. I'm bringing up the music because the music is like a character unto itself. It has like this sort of, I don't know, it's espionage, so I guess it makes sense. But it definitely was like a mixture of like the Mission Impossible theme and just a touch of James Bond in there. I couldn't help but notice it. My biggest issue with this film is it just doesn't have that same sensibility that I felt when I was watching Fallout or even Rogue Nation. There's a lot of like this stoic, kind of still, almost stilted style of acting that is employed across the entire film. There are definitely funny moments and there are definitely fun sensibilities in the film, but overall, it's like a lot of people in this film just have the same sort of delivery. I felt the same thing with Dead Reckoning, and I don't know what that's about. I don't know if it's Christopher McQuarrie. Like, I don't know whose idea it was for them to have this sort of stilted way of talking, but everybody has that in the film. It's a stylistic choice. Because of that, it was just like not as fun as I wanted it to be, as like the previous Mission Impossible films. Whatever feelings you had about the villain in the first one, you're not gonna feel them as much here, but they're definitely still a similar issue that you experienced in the first one. If you like the screensaver bad guy from the first movie, you will be more than happy with this one because it's even more of that. If I were to rank this, it would definitely be behind Fallout and behind Ghost Protocol. But that moment that I'm talking, that Donkey Kong Banana Town moment, man, that definitely puts it up there. If we're just sort of ranking stunts that Tom Cruise has done over the course of these films, that might be the best. This might be the coolest stuff Tom Cruise has ever done in a Mission Impossible film. As far as the whole experience goes, I don't know that it crushed it. The rewatchability of Fallout and Ghost Protocol is still much higher for me. However, this is rewatchable enough that I'm gonna go back and watch it again in IMAX, so there you go. Do with that what you will.